Okay, we're going to talk Bregman, Bellinger, Suarez, all the trade guys, Ryan, Alcantara, Skubal. Maybe we'll see about that. It's a long shot. Peralta, going to hit on a myriad of subjects, a ton of subjects. Going to start with Kyle Schwarber, a guy I've been talking about a lot. And again, chat at me, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. Last couple days, we got a ton of chats, and I appreciate that. Again, not going to get to all of them. Going to try to get to as many. Teams in on Schwarber. Got to give Ken Rosenthal credit for mentioning the Reds. Absolutely. I do believe the Reds are interested. I tried that a couple days ago, check in there, and I got the result was it looks like it's going to be very expensive for us, which isn't a surprise. Didn't mean they weren't interested, but they are indeed interested. So that's a big development. He is from the Cincinnati area. Could that be a lure? Probably to some degree. The Reds are an improved team. They did make the playoffs. I've got to think that he likes that idea, but why wouldn't you like the idea of returning to Philly as well? So, I mean, I don't know if we're going to name favorites, but certainly Philly and the Reds are two big teams in on Schwarber. Looking at the Orioles, Pirates, and Red Sox as well. Will be more. John Morosi, I think, mentioned the Giants. They've tried for big players in the past. Tough for a left-handed hitter to go to San Francisco unless you're Barry Bonds. I mean, Schwarber was amazing. 56 home runs, 23 against lefties. Incredible. So I do believe that Schwarber is having a great market early. That is terrific news for him. I think he's going to do exceptionally well. I think I had 140 for 4 for him. I think I'm going to be light. It's 35 a year. I could see him easily getting the 5th year, right? So would that end up being 175? If you had another 35. Is he a $40 million player? Maybe on a 4-year deal, on a 5-year deal. That seems like a stretch to me. $200 million at his age. He's been obviously at his best year last year. Those 56 home runs, the 23 against lefties. I mean, who hits 23 home runs against lefties for a left-handed hitter or for anybody else? I think Matt Olson did hit something like that. There have been a couple guys, not very many. All right, I'm going to get to some chats now. Do the Pets hope that Pete signs elsewhere? But no, they don't want him to sign elsewhere. They want him. Senga, I do believe he'll probably get traded. I know he doesn't want to get traded, but at least that's the report from the Athletic. Anything about the Astros? Again, Brendan Donovan, I think, is the guy they're looking at. I think they're going to want to get a pitcher. I don't think at this point it's going to be Framber. We're going to get to Framber in a second. But certainly we'll want to get a starting pitcher to go with Hunter Brown, maybe even at the top there. Are the Phillies out? No, not on Schwarber. I don't believe they're out, and I would think they'd probably be the high bidder. So, and I'm sure he liked it there. Why not? What's not to like? All right. Favorite for Imai? I'm going to say the Yankees and the Phillies are two teams potentially on Imai. There are probably several others. I think Imai is having Zooms with teams right now. Might meet with teams after the winter meetings, which are next week. So I don't know. I've seen reports he's going to might sign by the end of the winter meetings. I'm not so sure that is the case. What are the Phillies going to do? That's a $64,000 question for you folks as old as I am, and I am 64. Coincidentally enough, that was a great game show back in the day, long time ago. The Phillies are interesting. Certainly looking at Schwarber, looking at Real Muto, bringing him back. Suarez, a possibility, but I think there are other teams maybe in on Suarez as well. Will they trade Marsh? Will they trade Bohm? I don't think they would trade Stott, but certainly will trade or looking at trade Castellanos. I expect him to go somewhere. They got their irons in a lot of fires, and I mentioned. Imai for the Phillies. So, they tried hard for Yamamoto. I don't see why they wouldn't try hard for Imai, and I do believe that they are in on Imai. Cody Bellinger. We're going to get to Bellinger in a little while, so I'll answer that. Pirates, they're going for a hitter. I think trading is probably the way to go for the Pirates, right? It's easier for them to get somebody via trade, whether that be Brandon Lau, Jeff McNeil, somebody like that. An infielder certainly would fit. Would O's prefer Suarez, Valdez? We're going to get to all those guys in a second. Giants in on anything big. I saw a report they're not going to pay for the big starters. To me, they should build around pitching. Certainly the teams I think are looking to trade for a starter. A lot of these guys, but teams, but that they're in on Schwarber tells me they're looking at offense as well. Maybe they're going to spend the money there. To me, the Giants should build around pitching. But what do I know? That's just my thought. Any Rays rumors? I think Lau is probably out there. They've been out there a lot. Diaz, Mets. Yeah, I mean they definitely want him. Definitely an issue with the years at this point with Diaz. He was looking for 5 years. Not sure that he's going to get the 5 years. Castellanos, I think he's going to get traded. I'm not sure that's first on their agenda. They need to do some stuff. Maybe they'll in the back burner to some degree. Castellanos, I can see. Look, the Pirates and the Marlins are looking for hitting. He is from Miami. I think he had some regret about not going there. Not that they could have taken their, what did they offer, 45 or 50 million compared to the 100 million he got. I mean, you can't really have regret over that. Mets, Tatis, question mark. Well, they like a right-handed bat. I mean, to me, that sounds like a long shot. I think the Mets are probably looking at trades, but I think probably a pitcher. They need pitching. Look, their pitching was not good at the end of the year, so that's what they need to do. Let's go. Mets in on Freddie Peralta. I think, like I said, I think the Mets are looking at trading for pitching. That does make sense to me. They've got some really good prospects. They've been reluctant to give them up. It seems like they're doing the opposite of what they had done in the first couple of years. They're looking at least at considering trading. They haven't done it yet, so we'll see if they do the opposite. But I think they're considering making a trade or for a starting pitcher. So I think that may be the way they go. Tucker's still in on Yankee radar. Yeah, there he's on the radar. To me, that's a long shot. They have a good right fielder named Aaron Judge. So, I'm not sure how he fits that great. To me, I get it. Tucker's the number one free agent out there. But Bellinger, to me, fits the Yankees and the Mets better. Mets, Alonso, I get it. I mean, that's almost a need, right? Alonso's a need. I feel Diaz is a need too. I mean, could they turn to Suarez? I mean, you don't have the Timmy Trumpet. He is 35 years old. If their issue with Diaz is that he's going to be 32 and don't want to give the 5 years, can you then turn to Suarez and give him a 3-year deal? Now we're talking about a guy pitching at 38, same as you would be with Diaz, right? So I don't know. And I do think Suarez will probably get the 3 years. We shall see. Devin Williams got 3 years. Good for him. He's a better negotiator than a pitcher, at least for the Yankees. He wasn't that good. All right, Pirates chances. Look, the Pirates have a lot of good prospects. I feel like they're on the come. I really do. Mariners going to make moves. Yes, infield. I think they're looking at Polanco. If they don't get Polanco, they certainly could look at Eugenio Suarez coming back. Lots of stuff going on here. Anyway, Yankees can get Bellinger and Tucker. No, I mean they're pretty full if they do that. All right, their outfield's not in bad shape. Grisham did decide to come back, right? I think that surprised some of them, but he's back, right? And you've got Judge, you've got Dominguez, you've got Spencer Jones. They're clearly looking at Bellinger as their number one guy, and I'm going to get to Bellinger in a little while. Mets next move. I never want to predict the order, but I do believe Mets are looking at starting pitching. They're certainly looking at Diaz, and they're looking at Alonso. I mean, if Diaz and Alonso are number 1 and 2, are they close on either one? I doubt it. I don't think so. I'm not seeing any signs that they are close on either one. It is early, though, so there is time to go on that. Any Cubs links to bats? Yeah, when I get to Bregman, I'll get to that. There is obviously one obvious link with a bat with the Cubs. No question about that. Fairbanks, Marlins. I've heard him with the Tigers more. The Tigers are looking at 2 relievers, swing and miss guys. I think Fairbanks is one. Finnegan's another. Finnegan actually pitched really well for them last year after they acquired him. So that does make sense. Would Cubs go 6 to 7 years on Imai? Look, if you're going to get Imai, you better go 6 to 7 years. But I do think the Cubs will land a starting pitcher. They haven't been really that interested in spending big bucks in free agency. Maybe they can make a trade. They've got good prospects. I can see them potentially making a trade. And we've got a lot of trade possibilities we'll get to in category number 3. There are a ton of starters out there. Mets, Bellinger, I think it's a possibility. I'm still going to favor the Yankees, and I'm going to talk about Bellinger down the road and here in a few minutes. Why was I? Astros and Joe Ryan. Look, Joe Ryan, he's one of those pitchers that's out there, and the Astros are certainly looking at starting pitching. Let's go. What have we heard about Houston? Again, Brendan Donovan, possibility. Who are the biggest locks to sign at the winter meetings? I never like to give the time. Who's going first? Who's going second? That stuff. I'll say this, and we talked about this yesterday on this live stream. Schwarber's got a big market, right? And obviously he's got a lot to choose from, but it looks like it's coming early together for Schwarber. So I would say Schwarber could be a big one that happens at the meetings next week. Please roast my Cubs. Yeah, Cubs got to spend more money. The disparity between their revenue and their payroll, according to some lists at least, was the highest in baseball. Time the Cubs start spending money. How is that? Did I roast them okay? I didn't spend too much time on it. But Devin Williams, Mets chances for Diaz. I mean, Devin Williams provides them some kind of cover. I don't want to see him closing for the Mets. If they don't get Diaz, they're going to have to go get Suarez. Devin Williams is a setup man for New York. If he's the closer, they're in trouble. I don't like that. Red Sox potential pitching target. Well, they like Ryan, so I'm talking a lot about Ryan today, but that's a possibility. All right, Mets in on. Let's see what we got. Astros linked to Joe Ryan. Like I said, I think they're going to look at starting pitching. Absolutely. Astros trading Yiner. We trade your catcher. I don't know. I mean, I obviously didn't have as great a year as we were hoping for last year, but I don't see that. What will the Dodgers do? They're going to do good stuff. I've seen people speculate on Diaz with the Dodgers. I'm not sure that that's a likelihood for the Diaz unless it doesn't come together for him. And I think he will get at least a 4-year deal somewhere. But they've already invested in, obviously, in Tanner Scott, so I don't think that will happen. Dodgers need to go for the outfield, right? Whether that be Bellinger, Tucker, whomever, that's the one that does fill. Mets in on Peralta. Any starting pitcher who's out there, the Mets are going to be on. I do believe that. All right, Mets, Tucker, question mark. I get that question all the time, and I understand Tucker's of great interest. He is the number one free agent. I don't see the Mets with Tucker. I mean, how does that fit? They need right-handed bats more. They have a great right fielder in Juan Soto, who's headed to the Hall of Fame. The Mets have multitude of issues right now. They need starting pitching. They need relief pitching. They got to bring Alonso back, a righty bat. If they go for an outfielder who's a lefty bat, to me it should be Bellinger. Bellinger fits both New York teams better than Tucker does. Is he better than Tucker? No, I get it. Tucker walks more. He's been more consistent over his career. I get it. He's the number one free agent. He's also a little younger than Bellinger. Bellinger's got some big pluses, though. He's versatile. He can play first. He can play center, both corners. He's outstanding defensively, has thrived in big markets, been in the 3 biggest markets, was great with the Yankees. But we're going to get to Bellinger in a little while. All right. Any chance Tucker stays with the Cubs? I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, the Cubs aren't a team and I'm pleading for the Cubs to spend, but are they going to spend $375 million plus? I don't see it. I'm not seeing that. Will Adley Rutschman get traded? Potentially, right? They've got another Visayo, pretty good catcher, so that's a possibility. Who's the favorite for Imai? Phillies and Yankees right now as we talk. Can the Giants actually sign Schwarber? Not going to rule it out. It wasn't one of the 5 teams I mentioned with Schwarber, but not going to rule it out. All right, let's get to market for Framber and Suarez. I mean, all the starting pitchers are going to do great. Cease got 210 for 7. I know a little bit, some of it's deferred. It's probably worth closer to 190. Still pretty darn good for a guy with a 4.5 ERA, right? So Framber has been very, very consistent. Suarez has been consistently good. Both been good in the playoffs. I think both are going to do great. Certainly the Mets are going to be interested in these guys. The Orioles are going to be interested in these guys. The Cubs are going to be interested in these guys. There's going to be a ton of teams that are looking at Framber, Suarez, at the top of the market. Imai, I'd put him in there too. Just below them, I'd put King and Gallen, but this is the top of the market, the starting pitching market. Framber and Imai, I would say, are top 2 now that Cease is gone, and Suarez after. And look, the pitchers have done fantastic. It's nothing you guys don't know at this point, right? We've gotten 4 signings of pitchers, right? 3 of them have ERAs above 4, and they all did great. The one who didn't had a 3.21 ERA, Raisel Iglesias, and he gave up, 15 home runs in the regular season. He did fine as well. Quan trade. I mean, there's going to be speculation about Quan. I don't see, how are they trading Quan? I don't get it. The Guardians somehow slip into the playoffs almost every year, and they do it the way they do it. And Quan fits. I get it. He's getting closer to free agency. Maybe at the deadline, if they're not in the race, I could see that as a possibility. All right, let's get to pitching on the block. We got a ton of guys to cover here. There's a lot of good starters whose names have been out there. potentially pitchers on the block. Someone's now texting or chatting Giants and Peralta. Yeah, Peralta could be out there. Ken Rosenthal, and I give him credit. And Rosenthal was the one who tied the Reds to Schwarber, hometown hero. He is from the Cincinnati area. Give Rosenthal credit on this one as well. He's suggesting that the Brewers are considering Peralta, maybe even a little more than we suspected. He only makes $8 million, so they can easily hold on to him. I don't think they need the $8 million. I mean, today's day and age, that's a number 5 starter, not a number 1 starter. And I consider a Peralta a number 1 starter. But I could see them moving him. They moved Burns. They've moved other big stars that would leave them short with pitching, and they'd certainly need to get a pitcher back. But certainly they could move Peralta. Skubal, I think they're going to get. They're going to tell teams what I'm getting, or at least from other teams, is they think that Tigers would listen to offers. They're not going to make offers themselves. If other teams want to make an overwhelming offer, maybe they could get Skubal. The price would be enormous, even for a one-year player. I know we've seen some one-year superstars traded. The most obvious one, Mookie Betts, and it didn't bring a haul, right? It brought Verdugo and 3 other guys. I think people have learned their lesson from that. You get a superstar even for 1 year, and he's not going to be paid the going rate, which at this point is 40 million plus, maybe even 50 million. He's going to get whatever he gets in arbitration, 20 something. 2-time Cy Young, it's a ton. So, I think they'll accept offers in terms of listen to them, at least, not accept, but take them in. I still think it's a long shot. Okay, I do think the Twins at this point are in kind of a rebuild. They're not a terrible team, even after trading 11 guys, but I could see them trading one of Lopez and Ryan. You're hearing Ryan's name out there, whether that be with the Red Sox, the Mets, the Cubs, whomever. He was discussed at the deadline. 2 years to go. Should be able to get a ton if they traded Ryan. Lopez has that physical question. Is he hurt? Is he healthy? I think he's okay, but there is a question there. So we shall see. They could trade one or the other, potentially. That seems to be the word out there. And of course, with the Marlins, with Cabrera, Alcantara, I think they're trying to win, right? So, I mean, they also would be a team that would want a ton. And look, the starting pitching, the value is up there, right? Cease has really set the trend here. He set the standard with a $210 million deal. So anybody who can start is going to get a ton. Gore's another guy. I didn't have him on my list, but Gore's a guy whose name is clearly out there, and they are talking to teams about Gore. I don't know who's going to start for them if they trade Gore. I mean, he's the it in terms of their rotation. But they're not going to win for the next 2 years, and I don't see them signing him before he becomes a free agent. So it wouldn't be that bad. Have you heard anything about Chris Bubich? Yeah, I mean, his name is out there, I think. I'm not sure how likely it is that he get traded. I've got my list of the 7 or 8 starters, and not completely on the list yet. I'll put him half on the list. Yankees and Diaz, I've heard no. I heard that's not happening. We'll see. It's early. Things change. If they don't get who they want, we're going to talk about somebody they definitely do want in a little while. But I have not heard Diaz and the Yankees. All right, Yanks and Alcantara, as I said, I'm not sure why the Marlins are going to trade either of these 2 guys at this point. Both well priced in terms of they have a good salary for the team. The Yanks certainly could look at starting pitching. I think Imai is the guy they go for on starting pitching. So I don't think we're going to see Yanks on Alcantara or really probably these other trade starters. They'll look into everything, I think. But I think Imai, if they're going for a starter, Imai would be the guy. And we're going to talk about Bellinger in a little while. Who is more likely to sign Imai, Yanks, or Phillies? I don't know. Those are my 2 favorites at the moment. Things can change. Adolis Garcia, a fit for Mets. I mean, right-handed bat, I can see it. Byron Buxton spots. I mean, I think he's got a full no trade. Not anxious to leave Minnesota. He's a very nice guy, fits in nicely in Minnesota. I think he might accept a trade to hometown Braves. That's kind of the scuttlebutt out there, but many others, I'm not so sure. He fits the Mets. I'm not sure he would accept a trade to the Mets, though. That's just my guess. I don't know. The plan for the Yankees, Imai and Bellinger, but is there a plan B? There's always a plan B. There's a plan B, a plan C. They spend a lot of time planning. There's a lot of time to plan, particularly when you get us eliminated as early as the Yankees. They've done nothing but plan. So I got a lot of plans, but Imai and Bellinger, you are correct. That is 1 and 2. Diaz to the Giants. They did trade away there to back end guys. That's a possibility. I did hear there were mystery teams. I'm gonna throw mystery teams out there for the first time this winter, and on Diaz. So yeah, I mean the Giants could be a mystery team for Diaz, no question about that. All right. Let me complete pitchers on the block. Likelihood of getting traded, I'm going to say Skubal, not that likely. Cabrera and Alcantara, I don't see them as that likely. Peralta, maybe a little more likely. I would say the most likely of the group are Gore, Lopez, and Ryan. And again, the Twins haven't shown that they're anxious to trade either one of them, but their names seem to be out there. They do talk. They did do a partial rebuild or fire sale. 11 guys were traded at the deadline, so I wouldn't be shocked if they're traded. And Ryan, very popular. People, all sorts of teams want Ryan. He's outstanding. Hey, Alex, be sure to ask the same question 85 times in a row. I don't know who you're referring to. All right. Is it Alex Rodriguez? Latest on Bellinger. All right. I mean, I think the Yankees are trying hard for Bellinger. Everybody with the Yankees wants Bellinger. It is funny to see Tucker, who could be a $400 million player, be the backup plan. And they've checked in on Tucker. Brian Cashman revealed that. I'm not saying anything new there, but Bellinger is the guy that they want. I mean, he was outstanding defensively. He's a proven big market guy, been in the three biggest markets, LA, Chicago, New York. Performed outstanding with the Yankees. He was incredible in spring training. Got off slumping at the beginning, and from those last 5 months or 6 months, I mean, obviously Judge is their best player, but he wasn't that far behind over those last 5, 6 months. He was pretty darn good. And I think the versatility is a big plus for the Yankees because you're not sure on Rice at first base. He's a very good hitter. Can he play first? We'll see. Bellinger only started, I think, 3 or 4 times at first, but certainly gives him that versatility. Same in center, although Grisham is back now. Tucker, to me, he's going to find other teams that are going to be better fits, whether it be Toronto. I don't know. I've seen Baltimore. To me, that's a little bit rich for Baltimore. You've seen the Dodgers. Could the Giants be in on Tucker? I mean, look, they've gone for all the big hitters. Lefty bat's tough for him to accept to the Giants. Certainly, if he wants the biggest deal, maybe the Giants are out there for him. I don't know. But I do think Tucker is the #1 free agent. He is a little bit younger than Bellinger. He's been more consistent now than Bellinger than anybody, really. And he's got that high on base. I mean, walked 87 times, only struck out 88. So he's the #1 guy. Now, I do think Bellinger's got more teams in on him. I think both LA teams have checked in on him, his old Dodger team and the Angels. He's going to be rich for the Angels. Don't see it happening for the Angels right now, but you never know. I do think the Mets are interested in Bellinger. Neither is a perfect fit because they're both left-handed, but, I could see the Mets looking at that defense. They do like that run prevention. Is there still a big gap between the Yankees and Bellinger? I don't want to repeat that at this point. I mean, obviously he hasn't signed with anybody, so there's a gap in any talk at this moment. But so I don't want to overstress that. But certainly, he's certainly looking for a certain number of years, and Yankees haven't hit that at this moment, or he'd be signed. I do feel like I'm going to say the Yankees are the favorite at this point. He was there. He performed great. They're a big market team. They have the money. All he said is he wants to be with a winner. Certainly the Yankees qualify for that. He fit beautifully with the team. So, obviously there's some kind of gap going on. Otherwise he would have signed. But I do feel like there's probably a decent chance that he winds up back with the Yankees. But the other teams, both New York teams, both LA teams, I think we're looking at big market teams. I'm sure there are others. I've heard there are a lot of teams in on Bellinger. Makes sense. People love the defense now. Great on a clubhouse. He is, he's a fantastic player. Just hasn't been quite as consistent as Tucker, and he doesn't walk quite as much. So he's not going to get the 8, 9, 10 years that Tucker can get from somebody. Durant to the Dodgers. That's the second. You're the second one who's mentioned that. The Padres are the team that was after him. So, it's possible. They have that extra outfielder in Boston. We'll see. One thing about Boston, which I mentioned yesterday or the day before, this idea that they need to really watch the money or whatever, their revenue's fantastic. They saved $250 million, $250 million trading Devers, and that was a great trade. They did a great job last year. They should work on what they did to keep doing it. Crochet was a great signing. Signing Bellinger to over 6 years is a mistake. Yeah, I don't know. he's had three really good years in a row, right? It was 4 years ago where he struggled. I think the injury did affect him with the shoulder that he injured on the, what is that called? I don't know, high five, whatever he did with Kike in the World Series. It took him a couple of years. I don't, he's 30 years old, about 30. Xander Bogaerts got, what did he get? 10 years? There were guys that were getting 10 years who were about this age. I don't think he's going to get 10 years, but I certainly think that he will get six. So if that's the number that you said, I think I had him for six for 180. You can go back on the New York Post, nypost.com, and look at my predictions in early November. I've been a little bit light on some of them so far. I think I had Cease at 175. He got 210. Guys are doing pretty well. Just waiting for the Mets to drop the mic on everyone. They got money and they've got the casino now, so who knows? Could the Astros end up with Mackenzie Gore? Absolutely could. Could be the Padres. They're looking at trades. I could see the Cubs. There are a ton of teams looking at starting pitching, and maybe it's more palatable to trade prospects than actually go out and spend on a guy, because we saw the price of pitching. It's pretty high. O's, please, they're working hard. Looking at Schwarber. I think they've looked at a number of offensive pieces. They've already got Ward. They've done well. They got Helsley. They're doing okay. All right, Bregman leaving Boston, question mark. Bellinger had a 715 OPS on the road. Yeah, that's why I think he fits the Yankees best. He was fantastic at home in New York. Certainly, that stadium fits him. He was in Wrigley, where left-handed batters have suffered. Tucker to a degree. Last year as well, Wrigley is tough. So he had two tough years in terms of difficulty with the Cubs. He did perform there. Performed even better with a short porch at Yankee Stadium. He really fits New York. His dad was a Yankee. I'm not going to say anyone's signing with a certain team yet. And as I mentioned, there's a gap with anybody who hasn't signed. We know there are gaps. All right, Bregman leaving Boston, question mark. Possibility. I do think he was a great fit. I'm not telling you that you don't know. That's clear. Really good player. Great for the clubhouse. That fits. I do believe that the same teams are in on Bregman that were in last year as a free agent. So I think the Tigers are in. I think the Cubs could be in. Now, what will they do with Shaw? Could he move over to second? Would they trade Horner? They got a few guys who are free agent after the year. So could they potentially? Horner was really good last year, so I'm not sure they do that. Were they dissatisfied with Shaw? I think they were pleasantly surprised with his defense, but he probably didn't hit what they expected. So I do think the Cubs are at least checking in on Bregman. We shall see there. So there are other teams. It's the same scenario as we had last year. Maybe we'll even get the same offers. Cubs and Cubs. Excuse me, I just want to check that. Cubs and Tigers certainly are possibilities for Bregman. Is he leaving Boston at this point? If I were to guess, I would say they work it out in Boston. They need right-handed bats. They like that veteran leadership. I think they fit. Pete Alonso to the Giants, question mark, I'm getting. I think that's a possibility. I think Boston's a possibility. As I've said with Boston, and this is about a week ago, I wrote that they've checked in on Okamoto. They checked in on Real Muto. The Real Muto doesn't feel like a need for them. They checked in on Schwarber. He's one of the teams in on Schwarber. They're one of the teams in on Schwarber. Which they love Schwarber, but it looks like a righty bat would be better for them. So Boston may be the big threat in terms of Alonso. That would be kind of my thought at that point. Zach Gallen and Bichette, Giants. Well, they signed last year a shortstop, so I don't know that they signed Bichette. Bichette obviously can play second and third as well. Zach Gallen, Giants could make sense. He's generally had a very good career in that division. Could see that. Any news on the Orioles? They're still working hard. They've even shown in on Schwarber, so they're going to get somebody more, I do believe. And they are looking at a top starting pitcher. I do believe that. 5 years max for Bellinger, somebody says. Well, that sounds like an executive talking. Maybe. I think he'll do better than that. We shall see. Yanks trade Rice. No. A lot of interest. I don't see them trading him. O'Hearn, Marlins could be. Marlins are looking for offense. He certainly would fit. So to wrap up, Bregman leaving Boston. He's going to have that option. Same teams. Detroit, Cubs are going to be in. Maybe Toronto. Toronto's doing a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about Toronto now. But leaving, not necessarily. I'm going to give a 51% chance that he stays in Boston. All right. Is Brendan Donovan getting traded? Well, you know what? This is the second time he's out there, so I think there's not a bad chance of that. Alonso back to the Mets is a lock. Nothing's a lock in the free agent game, but I think should be a good chance, right? They absolutely need a right-handed bat, and I mean, you're going to really let him go after the season that they had? They've got enough problems with the fans right now. So, all right, Blue Jays spending spree. It's been pretty impressive. Give them credit. They signed Pawns as well. 3 years, 30 million. They have 210 million for C. Some of it deferred, obviously. So they've remade their rotation. Pitching is what they needed to do with Scherzer, Bassett as free agents. So I think they've got their starting pitching pretty well set. They're going to look at certainly bringing back Bo Bichette, see how that works out. They've got money. I mean, they have the richest owner in the American League. Is he richer than Steve Cohen? I don't know. Cohen's got the casino. That's like printing money. Basically anybody can make money with a casino, and you think Steve Cohen would do pretty well. So could that be a big battle with Diaz? Because certainly the Blue Jays are looking for a closer as well. So Suarez, Diaz, those seem to be the best fits for the Jays, a team that can spend. So could be a battle between the Jays and the Mets for Diaz. Suarez is another guy still out there. Finnegan, Fairbanks, Kenley Jansen. Any of them could fit. I don't. If they want to save money, they can go for one of those guys. But I don't know. The Blue Jays don't seem like a save money kind of team. So Blue Jays are continuing their spending spree. I'm going to put it that way because they have started off big, and I think they will continue. Would they get Tucker? Their outfield's in pretty good shape. As we saw throughout the playoffs, they did a fantastic job in the outfield. Santander was the one guy who really didn't perform, and he wasn't even active for part of the playoffs. So there is still a question there. They are an issue. They are a potential possibility for Tucker. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, I've got my help here. I appreciate it. We're at my time now, but it's been my pleasure. Angels Murakami? Question mark. Maybe they certainly love to get big time position players, and that guy has got big time power. Is he a third baseman though? They're going to be looking at third base, right? Because they're working on buying out Rendon now. Murakami probably a first baseman or a DH according to the scouts. But big time bat. So if they're looking at a big time bat, Murakami could be a potential fit for the Angels. All right, that was a good last question. Sorry I didn't get to all the chats. Michael Kay suggested to pivot from Bellinger. Well, that's his opinion. I love Michael Kay. He's one of my favorites. He's on me and Joel Sherman post podcast very frequently. I think it's a little early to pivot. Right now, the Yankees have Bellinger as their number one guy, and they want to bring him back. And just because they haven't agreed, and there's obviously some kind of gap because they haven't agreed to this point, doesn't mean that they won't compromise and get it done. I mean, that is the guy for the Yankees. I mean, Tucker was going to get more money. He's the number one free agent. But for the Yankees, Bellinger, who's already done it there, is the fit. So I love Michael Kay. I can't agree with that. All right, this has been Jon Heyman. I'll be on tomorrow and Friday, taking the weekend off, and then I will be back at it for the winter meetings, Monday through Friday of the next week. It's been my pleasure signing off until tomorrow at 3 o'clock.